the sharpest recollections of our last few days in Anshoit. The bombing of Powatt's hybrid institution, the police raid, the frenzied escape through darkened streets. They'd never stop haunting us completely, that we tried to bury their pain with happier memories. Addie and I drew everyone into the storytelling. Living at safe houses in the middle of nowhere, there was little else to do. We'd watched the news religiously at first, but the screen spit images of our faces and names, blaring our crimes, the explosions at Lancaster Square, the Powatt bombing. After a while, the fear and upset crept into our insides and rotted them. Emalia said, "They're just saying the same things over and over. Can we please turn it off?" So we did. We gathered instead in the upstairs hallway, or around the dining table, or on the threadbare couch. If Ryan and I were in control, we sought the warmth of each other's touch, the press of my cheek against his shoulder, the comfort of having somebody there. I told them about the day Lyle and Nathaniel were born. Addie and I had only been 4, but I hadn't forgotten the happy, nervous chaos, the baby wrapped in blue, and the momentary disappointment I'd felt that it wasn't a girl. I didn't tell them about the day Nathaniel faded away, and it was considered normal because he was the recessive soul. Or the day Lyle fell sick, and they rushed him to the hospital, a pale little boy too frightened to speak. That was one of our unspoken rules: no sad stories. There was too much of that already. I knew a lot about Ryan's past, but it was nice to hear it again. The enormous old house in the country where the Mullins lived before moving to Lupside, the creak of the ancient floorboards, the ever-dusty library, the stretch of field where the grass grew waist-high, perfect cover for war games at dusk. Allie or Lissa interrupted when they had something to add, or a complaint that he wasn't being entirely truthful. Ryan protested, but he smiled, and I knew he didn't really mind. His sister's interruptions made us laugh, and laughter was a rare commodity now. Dr. Lyanne had to be coaxed into the storytelling. At first, she talked only about her youth, snippets of a lace and satin childhood. I watched the sharp lines of her face and tried to imagine her 2 decades younger, not a woman but a little girl named Rebecca, who made the adults laugh with her grown-up sensibilities and too serious face, who knew the secret her brother Peter carried, but protected it fiercely. Eventually, we wheedled out anecdotes about medical school, but we had to be careful. Dr. Lyanne's studies in medicine linked too closely to her specialization and interest in neurology, in hybridity. It all led to her work at Nornand Clinic of Psychiatric Health, where she'd met Jamie, then the rest of us, where Addie and I had convinced her to betray her fellow doctors and help us escape. Everyone liked Henri's stories best, because he'd seen the world. Jamie especially pored over Henri's remaining maps as he described the places he'd been, the things he'd experienced and written about. "Have you written about us?" Kitty asked in the middle of a story about the Middle East. Henri had spent 2 months there, following a border war between 2 countries we'd never heard of, that hadn't even existed on the outdated maps taught in our schools. "About us specifically, I mean?" Henri smiled.
"Not by name. It's safer that way, in case anything gets intercepted."
Somehow the notion hadn't struck me before. I'd known Henri had traveled here to cover the hybrid plight in the Americas, sending back articles and information through his satellite phone, more miniature computer than phone in my mind. But I hadn't imagined his stories would be anything but general. The thought of it didn't leave me. Somewhere out there, someone might hear our story, and it might just be that, a story over morning coffee or playing in the background during dinner. Nothing more. "It's weird, isn't it?" I said to Addie. "You think too much, Eva," she replied. But I couldn't help it, for years before I regained control of our body.